welcome to this episode, which is all about burnout, a bit about what it is and a bit about what it isn't. So over the years, I've heard people saying that they're a bit tired and they're burning out and maybe they need a holiday, which certainly might be true, but that isn't really what burnout is. Burnout is a very sudden rupture in someone's mental health and physical health that's been built up over many months, even years, sometimes even decades. But it's really important to remember in burnout that it can actually be a traumatic thing in itself, because if you've been used to extending yourself beyond your limits year after year, day after day, and then suddenly you can't anymore, you can't dig deep to feel into your resources or your capabilities, your faculties. If you've experienced that sudden rupture, that actually can be traumatic to the person. So I now talk about burnout as burnout trauma. And when I'm working with somebody, whether it's an entrepreneur, senior exec, or somebody who has had many, many stresses over months and years and then suddenly breaks, what I see in them is a post-traumatic state. So from now on, I'm going to call it burnout trauma. Now, when somebody is feeling exhausted and does need a holiday or a break from work or from whatever their stresses are, that certainly is a lead up to burnout in actual fact. It's kind of like a precursor, it's a warning sign, can be an early warning sign. So it really is important. If you feel like somehow your mind and body are shouting at you to take a break, take a rest, it's really important to do that and to prevent burnout in the long run. So one of the other mythologies around burnout is that it's a weakness, and very strong people can often feel like they're weak because they're so used to extending themselves beyond their limits and taking themselves through incredibly big projects, or looking for what they want in the future and working towards it, getting it, and then moving on to the next thing. Because they're used to that, if they feel themselves breaking down, burning out, breaking down, whatever you want to call it, then they can start to feel weak. Now, the truth of that is that they're not weak at all, quite the opposite. They're very strong, dedicated, and committed. But what's happening to their system is that the stress level has been such for so long that actually now the system is weakened by the stress. It's not that they're weak as a person, incredibly, very much the opposite. And that's hard because when people's system is weakened, they can tend to turn it against themselves and just say, well, I'm weak, I can't take the pace, I can't do what I used to do. Well, that's right. You can't do what you used to do because you've done it for long enough. And every single person that has lived and that's living now and that's ever lived has a limit. And if you see burnout and breakdown as a neurological condition, which is what it is, it's all in our neurology, it's all imprinted in there, and that we've gone on for so long, we've only got a certain amount of circuitry. If we are a circuit board, we can't overload it. If we've got a plug socket in the wall and then we put an extension plug on there and then another one, and we've got 6 plugs going into that circuit, it's going to be too much and it will burst into flames and it will break. And that's exactly what happens to the human being. So there isn't anybody that doesn't have a limit. And that's what burnout is. You've reached your limit, you've tried to go beyond it, and your system is just saying, no, stop. And I really believe that your body or your mind will take you down, certainly if we don't educate ourselves and others about what burnout is. And it's really expensive in so many ways, and not just financially. Families suffer, people suffer, people's mental health suffers. They feel like they're going mad. They can't dig deep anymore. They can find themselves running a multi-million-pound business to lying on the sofa for 6 months. And that's not an exaggeration. It's a major medical condition and it's often misunderstood. So, going back to the kinds of people that burn out and break down, nearly always they will be the strong, dedicated and committed. Because it's not that the other people aren't good at what they do, but somebody that knows how to look after themselves, is doing the 9 to 5 and leaves work, looks after themselves and knows not to extend themselves beyond their limits consistently, they won't break down. So we have to be able to dig deep, commit, dedicate and work hard, but only occasionally, only in episodes. And we don't really understand that. Even big companies don't understand that. They'll do a project, finish it on the Friday and spend months doing that, and then by the Monday they expect all of those people to come back and be okay again. But really, I believe, from my experience over thousands of hours of working with people who have broken down, is that really there needs to be a period of convalescence. Because first, it's ethical. I think it's the right thing to do to look after those people that are strong and dedicated. Look after those people that you've invested time and education and money into. Why would you want to burn them out? And the sad thing as well about is in burnout, those people tend to disappear, maybe for 6 months to a year, or they never come back. And all of that training, experience is gone with them, and we don't learn from them. So I think that's a really important part of burnout, is understanding the bigger cost. The cost to the individual, the cost to the family, the cost to the community, to businesses, to companies. And I think it's too big a cost. I don't think work should make us sick. And burnout and breakdown is work eventually making us sick. And it might not just be work stresses alone. It could be that work is very demanding and then there's a family member that is poorly at home, or a child that needs extra attention at home, and those multiple stresses build up. And if you've got a circuit board that's only this big, you can only fill it with a certain amount of stress, and eventually if you overwhelm it, it will break. And that's really what burnout trauma is. It's the circuitry saying, I've had enough, I can't take any more. And if you haven't caught it early enough, the system will break down. Your mind or your body will make you stop, and it will give you an opportunity, even though it doesn't feel like it at the time, because it's absolutely dreadful to burn out and break down, but it's an opportunity to recalibrate and find a new way of looking after yourself. I hope that's useful. I'm going to go on to do some more videos about what burnout looks like, the phases of burnout, and how you might spot it, and how you might recover. There's so many complexities to burnout. It's so much more than a holiday. If it's been useful, please do subscribe. Keep in touch. If there's anything around burnout and breakdown you'd like me to cover, I'd be more than happy to do the best I can. And yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Speak soon.